Our building here, as you all know, and this centre is part of the 37-year history of Diversitat in Geelong. So our Ethnic Communities Council is the largest ethnic communities council in terms of budget in Australia. We also deliver the widest range of services of any ethnic communities council in Australia. As you know, we run the community radio station 94.7 The Pulse, and we've got some people here from The Pulse. So we're the only ethnic communities council in Australia that has a radio station. Yeah. So I think our history is very important to us, and it was great last year. I think Tracy Curry is here as well from the Watherong Aboriginal Co-op. She's the CEO. Is Tracy here? Yep. So it was good last year that the Watherong Aboriginal Co-op joined our organisation, which I'm not sure if there are any other ethnic communities councils in Australia that have Indigenous representation. I was lucky to be in Canberra many years ago when there was the first Indigenous welcome of a foreign monarch, and that was the Spanish King and Queen. Yeah, I remember that. And I think it was a significant occasion, as it was as significant as was the apology. We have a great sense of time and space in Geelong because this city has been here for a long time, and I think, I'm not going to say too much because obviously you all want to hear from Kevin, but I will say a couple of things that is the embodiment of Diversitat, and I think of a couple of the messages we would like to say. Leadership is what it's all about. The leaders that founded our organisation 37 years ago had a long-term vision, and that long-term vision has been met and has been really exceeded expectations in many ways. But we do it locally, and we do it very close to all of you, and it's all about empowering people and continuing on with that vision, particularly for migrants and refugees. Where we're at today, in many ways, is quite a dark place in terms of what is happening around the asylum seeker debate, and I won't say too much except one of the things we are calling for, and I have spoken to Richard about it, is now a strong anti-racism concerted campaign. Because the fear that we have as leaders in this community is that as we see this asylum seeker debate unfold, we see that there is growing tensions because there is the perception out there that it's out of control. It's not out of control. We are managing a policy, but we know what is coming. And what is coming is, as that policy unfolds, there is going to be difficulties for these people in our community. We need to pull together. We don't need to be divided. We need to stand firm, and that is what we're calling for. So we want the federal government and the state government to have a consistent message that we don't support any kind of racism in this country, whether it be the quiet one, the joke, the comment, whatever, and I think that's very important. The second thing I would like to say, and the message that we have, is that we need to invest in our infrastructure. If Kevin's government and Richard hadn't invested in this building, obviously this wouldn't be here. We wouldn't have the capacity to expand and deliver our services. So when I'm talking about investment, I'm talking about that somewhere like Geelong needs and has to have strong government support. We know what's happened with Ford, we know the NDIS is a good story, but we need to have government support. There is good debt and there is bad debt. Debt that is involved with investing in infrastructure, in our view, is good debt. So we would call for that. And the third thing we would ask for is that the focus be in the future about jobs and training, because for us in Geelong, the job services, which we deliver the JSA, a coal-specific JSA, there is no money, it needs a review, and we would actually call for a significant rethink and a push in terms of more support for our jobs programs and more support for our training. Anyway, there's three things I thought we'd put out there on the table.
So, without further ado, can I please introduce the former Prime Minister of Australia, former Foreign Minister of Australia, Kevin Rudd.
Well, thanks Richard and Darren for having me here, John as well, Michael and all of you here in the great city of Geelong for a very warm Geelong welcome on a cold winter's day. We Queenslanders freeze when we head south of the Tweed, let alone south of the Murray. And also to you good folk here who make up such a strong and vibrant local community. Great cities are made out of great communities. I've been down here many times over the years, and one of the things that's made this great city great is that people have come from around the world to make it that way. I believe passionately in an Australia where we are a multicultural, not a monoculture. Think about it if in the year 2013 we had have shut the gates way back when and ended up sentenced to a future based on English and Irish food. Just think about it. Roast beef, Yorkshire pudding, and that's it, and 3 veg. Thank you for those of you who have come from around the world to make our national cuisine at last edible. It's been a huge contribution to making this country interesting and diverse. What Richard said before brought back some memories. Back in 2007 we committed $1.5 million to building this centre, the Northern Hub, which Diversitat now occupies. It's here, it's real, it's physical, you can touch it. I've been through the offices, I've seen some of the services that you provide. But the partnership is this: we go out and we build things, you, the community, make these facilities work. You bring them to life through your energy, your commitment, your passion, your enthusiasm. And the fact that you won a national award in terms of delivery of resettlement services quite recently is a tribute to all you folk. Extending an arm of welcome to those who have chosen to make Australia their home is what it is to be decent Australians. The fact that you are yourselves extending that hand of welcome to people of this community is a tribute to all of you. Because when you arrive somewhere new for the first time, it's hard. Our friend from Afghanistan here will know that it's hard. Our friends from other parts of the world will know that it's hard. The first month, the first year, the first several years. Problems of language, problems of culture, problems of friends, and problems of families often left behind. So you actually make a difference through what you do here. I actually get that. I really understand it. Now, looking at this gathering this morning, you've got a whole bunch of people from all over the world. How many folk are here who came from Afghanistan? Stick your hand up. Good, nice to see you. Welcome, great to have you in Australia.
Thank you.
Being part of the Australian family, good to see you. Those of you who have come from, let me talk about other parts of the world. Anyone here from Southern Sudan? Anyone here from Croatia? Croatians, I think, good to see you folks, nice to see you Croatians. Any Macedonians here? Macedonians. Who have I missed out? From the Congo. Who's here from the great continent of Africa? Good to see you. Welcome, part of the Australian family. Other parts of Europe? Germany, Spain. Okay, I was there for the greeting of King Juan Carlos. And from the Dutch, that's great. Any other parts of Europe? Hungary, good to see you. Lithuania, from the Baltic states, good to see you. Albania, from Tirana, good to see you. Okay, just north of there. Yeah. Sri Lanka, good to have you as well. Latin America, any of our friends from the continent here. Where are you from, mate?
Venezuela.
Venezuela, bienvenidos.
That's it.
And elsewhere in the world. Yep. Guatemala, good to have you here as well. China, Asia, 欢迎到这边来. Okay. Guess what? We're all Australians. And it's a good thing that we are all Australians. You add to the energy and diversity of what makes not just Australia at present, but Australia in the future. You know, there are two sorts of countries in the world. Those who shut the doors and slowly wither on the vine, and those who keep the doors open and through a system of orderly migration add to the nation's family, add to its strength through diversity, add the energy of enterprise of new people who have come here for the first time, determined to build a new future. Let me give you a little story from my community in Vegas, which is the capital of Queensland. And I'm reminded of this from our friend who's here from the Hazard community here in Geelong. This bloke comes into my office in Brizzy, probably about 6 months ago, and says, "Thank you, Mr. Rudd." And I said, "Okay, great to have you here." He said, "No, 10 years ago, when you as a member helped me and my family come here." I said, "That's good." And he said, "When I first came here, I didn't speak a word of English, but I ran into a bloke who ran the local car park, and he gave me a job as the car park attendant, and I was really grateful. I said, that's terrific. He said, then after a year or so, he said, come in, Ahmed, I'm going to teach you English because your English is terrible. Okay? And so this bloke, Brisbane, George, Australian, 5th generation Australian, teaches Ahmed English for an hour after closing time each day. Can you imagine? You know, this bloke will be taught sort of the broadest Queensland Australian English. So there you go. He's been taught English. 2 years after that, Ahmed's English has got to a really good level, and then Ahmed is given a job as the bookkeeper, running the business, or the accounts for the business, for George who owns it. And then he said to me, Mr. Rudd, last year I bought the business from George, and I'm now employed 4 other folks, including 2 Hazaras who have come to the country as well. That is the great Australian story of enterprise. It should bring encouragement to all of us, because you bring a spirit of enterprise. There's a lot of gloom and doom in the national media about Geelong's future. You know, I have seen cities and countries rise and fall as I read the history books of the world. I have seen cities which have evaporated into dust, ruin and decay, and I've seen cities which have constantly reinvented and rebuilt themselves. Geelong is in the second group. Geelong, over recent times, has had so many kicks in the guts as manufacturers have shut up shop or walked away for a whole bunch of reasons, some reasonable, most not. But you know what you've done here? You've constantly reinvented your city. You've constantly reinvented your purpose. The fact that there are new facilities here, there are new businesses growing, the fact that you've got world-class research institutes here, research institutes such as the Carbon Fibre Research Centre, which is now employing real people in real jobs with real innovation, that all makes a difference. I know Newcastle quite well as well. When BHP walked out on them X years ago, the good people of Newcastle, some of them thought, well, that's it, all over Red Rover. Bye-bye Newcastle. Newcastle today is a vibrant city with a different economic foundation for the future, because the local community stood up and made a difference. Geelong is just like that. Strong people, strong communities, turning adversity into opportunity. Ford closure, so what? Let's make it into an opportunity for Geelong's future. Don't let Ford destroy the morale of this local community. There's no need to. You're better than that. You're stronger than that. There are fresh ideas which will replace the jobs that Ford takes away in new businesses and new opportunities. And it's the enterprise you bring to the country which makes all that possible. And our job as an Australian government is just not to leave you in the lurch. It's been my passion. We can manufacture in the future. We manufacture using new materials and in different ways. We can build a future for communities like Geelong, just as the community itself is now doing. We build up, they tear down. And to finish where I began, you know something? And I take very seriously what Michael said before about the politics of racism. You know, people having snide remarks and all the rest of it. There's no place for that in our community, no place for that in our country. We're all Australians together. But you know something? On the broader question of multiculturalism, we proudly support and have supported for decades a multicultural Australia. So for us, a multicultural Australia is in our DNA. We welcome everyone into this country because we know, apart from the first Australians, we are all migrants. The only difference is when we came. That's the only difference. My mob came in 1790. Okay? They came as criminals on the Second Fleet. You came under much more respectable circumstances somewhat later. But you know something? Together, this multicultural Australia is going to craft a future, not just for the community of Geelong, but for the nation at large as well.
As a migrant, and before that nobody knew who is Ali, and I didn't have the confidence to speak in front of this many people. And in 3 years, I have enough confidence today that I'm speaking in front of this many people. And this country has given me the confidence and the energy. And now 3 years later, I've just opened my own business because I have a hope for the future. And and I believe this is my future, this country and these people. When I was overseas, I heard that in Australia there are human and humanities, not such as I was living before, dying every day, seeing people dying, hearing gunshots, such things. I thought I might take the risk, and at least I will go and see the human and humanity there, if I reach there. So today, thank God that I'm here.
My name is Romain Verindi. I'm from Congo, Southern Africa. I've been in Australia for 4 years now.
Good.
I come from a French-speaking country.
Bienvenue.
The big challenge I faced here when I came is the language barrier. But now I can try to make my voice understood a little bit. I've been very delighted by Australians, as you said. The vision of Australian is the multicultural. Is when we try to discuss with some friends about the previous government, which has been ruled by Kevin Rudd. We have been very, very delighted because we try to compare your vision with some of our expression in Congo, which says in some local languages that the sun shines for everybody. That is your vision. And